What's going on, boys? Today we are talking a bit about ESFPs, or rather, a specific sort of ESFP using a real life encounter with this sort of ESFP. I am fascinated with ESFPs, but I struggle connecting with most of them. The ones I do connect with are atypical while still exhibiting ESFP traits. But instead of being all SE and TE, their FIs and NIs are active and they have a lot to say. Interesting things to say. Presented in a way no other type presents information. So I met this ESFP at a charity concert get fucked up event. The gathering was loud, crowded, and stressful. So I walked outside to smoke, for a few reasons. Number one, smoking is good, smoking feels nice. Two, less noise and fewer people. And three, socializing. If you aren't a smoker, if you didn't know, smoking guarantees you people to speak with anywhere. And because fewer and fewer people are smokers, you get to have short, but not too short, one-on-one conversations with complete strangers in this weird camaraderie atmosphere. Meaning, I get to do my professional socialization on better footing. And that's exactly what happened. I packed up my pipe and started puffing, and there's a group of three dudes speaking near me, and the one leading the conversation stops the conversation to ask me about my pipe. Turns out he's a fan of pipes, but because of his circumstances, he doesn't have access to one, so instead he's been rolling cigarettes. And then he hits me with specific tobacco lingo, using the correct titles and discussing textures and flavors and that kind of thing. And it was clear he knew enough to move that conversation in that direction at all, but he didn't know everything. And something I've noticed with TE types, when they want to impress someone, they'll use lingo, or they'll talk about things like they know exactly what they're talking about, and they'll use verbiage to make you think they are either an expert or in the know about something, whether or not they are. For instance, you might be discussing 20th century film, which in and of itself is a term or phrasing they would use. And they might have read 2 articles about German Impressionism and watched 5 minutes of 3 different YouTube videos about it, but they will move the conversation deep into German Impressionism because it does something for them. And if you happen to be an actual expert on whatever topic they know a little bit about and might prove them wrong or prove they don't know as much as they're saying, they will move the conversation in a different direction. Pull the same strategy with a different topic you don't know a lot about. And I'm not bringing this up as a slight, it's a pattern. It's something I've noticed TE types do. It might be a means or a method for them to fit in with another person using the mechanics of a subject because they lack FE and can't just vibe. As in, when 2 FE types meet and they pass each other's cool checks, they need nothing else in common. Everything is just cool. TE types seem not to have that, so they go for the mechanical angle, maybe. So I tell him I don't know a lot about tobacco. And then he admits he doesn't know a lot about tobacco. But I explain to him why I smoke the blend I smoke. It's not about the mechanics of the tobacco, it's because my grandfather smoked it and it's cheap. But I offer it to him if he'd like to try it. He accepts, and then he moves me away from the other two dudes he was initially speaking with and away from a few of the other people standing outside and asks me if I'm a capitalist. Now, before this moment, I was under the impression I was dealing with an ENFP. Similar energetic aura. Not sure if that's SE or NE yet, but it's probably NE because of the clear TE there. But the way he asked me that question, the way he, not just the question, but set up asking the question, setting up the moment of asking the question, and it was so detached from everything else, and he asked it with an intensity and a look in his eye. And I thought, oh shit, I'm dealing with a ratty ENTJ. They exist. And up to that point, in person, in my experience, ENTJs were the only type that would do that in that way. Ask a question that will, no matter your answer, draw a perimeter and establish us or them immediately. But I hesitated because that is a loaded ass question you can't answer with yes or no. Maybe you can. I couldn't answer that question honestly, yes or no, right then and there. So he grabs my shoulder after I hesitate and says, "Thank God. Everyone's a fucking capitalist around here." And I stopped him and explained, I'm not going to say yes, but I can't confidently say no unless we go through some more details and talk context. And he said that's better than a yes, and we can work with that. And then we started talking about other things. Because at this point, I'm hooked. Now, certain types tend to hook me better than other types, but if a person is a weirdo with the ability to discuss their weirdo-ness, I'm hooked. Type doesn't matter. And now I'm not really getting ENFP or ENTJ vibes off this guy. He has both traits mixed in an odd way. And it dawns on me, maybe this guy's an ESFP, because I've met these sorts of ESFPs, but only online, never in person. So I start probing, partially in interest in this individual, and partially as a wildlife photography type moment. Oh my god, did I just see one of these things in the wild? I learned he works with troubled children, and last night he beat up a guy who hit a woman because nobody else was intervening. And he's like 5'6". And that's another thing. Distinguishing ESFPs, or this sort of ESFP, from ENFPs and ENTJs. Physical confrontation. ENFPs and ENTJs will both throw down at the drop of a hat, especially if their FI has been attacked in some way. But ENFPs, I've noticed, will start with verbal confrontation. They want to express that you have done something fucked up, and they are less inclined to escalate to violence if that violence isn't already there. They like to keep things verbal, but we'll get to that other part. ENTJs, if they aren't the ones being directly threatened, will hesitate, or at least I have known them to hesitate. They want to assess the situation, at least briefly, before jumping in. You never know who has a knife. You never know who has a gun. Maybe it's that guy across the room with the weird look in his eye. Maybe it's this woman who is acting like she's drunk, but she's not actually that drunk. These are things you aren't paying attention to, but the ENTJ sure as shit is. And they aren't going to risk their skin unless it's necessary or until they have assessed their odds well. ESFP did neither. He just cold-cocked the guy, knocked him on the ground, and then jumped on top of him. He referred to it as, quote, some cowboy shit like John Wayne. Now, I thought this story was a little far-fetched. And I didn't witness it, so maybe it is. But based on some things, again, we will get to, I now believe it. Anyway, I asked him about trust. I wanted to get an interesting FI perspective on trust because I have trust issues. He explained to me how trust isn't an on or off switch. Trust is specific to each individual, and that trust with that individual is leveled. And learning you must adjust your trust level with someone, particularly backward, is not a mistake, it's an adjustment. Getting burned doesn't mean you are stupid, it means you were trying, and by adjusting trust rather than turning it off, you are continuing to try. And we went back and forth on the trust question for a long time. And I want to mention, this is, I think, FI operating at the highest level. TI says, in terms of stuff, or maybe in looking at things in a stuff-like way, just because it seems not to be working right now, or I can't prove it with hard TE evidence right now, doesn't mean it isn't there. It isn't real, it isn't working. In a similar way, FI says, just because this thing, this principle, this value, worth believing in, can hurt you, or may appear not to be working, does not mean it isn't valuable or can't work. FI working well brings a level of sophistication, thoughtful sophistication, to emotions and interpersonal interactions than FE does, which is more of an instinctual thing. I mean, I'm not saying FE isn't strong. It's, in my opinion, the most powerful cognitive function when mastered, but there isn't that level of conscious, thoughtful sophistication. Then I asked him whether or not he likes people or believes in people, and he gave me another killer golden nugget thought. He said he does not believe in or love people. He said he believes in and loves person, or at least tries to and will always try to. Example, you get a nasty cut on your hand. You go into a room of crowded people and say, "I'm hurt, please help me." Nobody's going to help you. But you approach an individual and say, "I'm hurt, please help me." That person is probably going to help you. Now, in a nice bit of TI-FI crossover, I can't prove it with facts, I don't have a study to reference, but based on my observations, that observation is 100% correct. His message was, individuals are golden, and any if our society is ever going to change for the better, which it probably won't, but it could, that change will come from individuals, not groups. That's why he works with kids, troubled kids. And when I explained to him my background, he dogged me to become a teacher. And these are the conversations and the points in conversations I love having and reaching with people. Working your way into a rational and palatable alternative. When speaking with most people, it feels like certain elements of life are being ignored, either because the person doesn't want to believe those elements are there, or because they haven't experienced them themselves. Rarely do you meet someone who has taken the same elements you've experienced, all of them, shunning none of them, and coming up with something different, something you couldn't have come up with, and it works. Maybe even better than the perspective you developed. Now, there were other points we differed more in. And, of course, these come down to action. He started talking loudly about hating conservative politicians. And I think I've mentioned before, I now live in a majority seniors, majority white community. You are either part of the 65% who are white, retired, and wealthy, or you're part of the 35% who is more racially diverse, younger, and probably broke. And his volume and language, while it hadn't attracted a bunch of negative attention, he was saying things that were going to cause some kind of verbal dispute with a boomer that would get ugly. And I mentioned this to him. And he told me, if you believe in something, you need to be willing to stand up, say it out loud, and fight for it. My response was, I don't believe anything on the grand scale will ever change for the better. And as for the smaller scale, you can affect more positive change by being careful. He told me people can have serious disagreements without fighting, but you'll never know whether or not or what about people will fight if you don't verbalize your beliefs and stand by them. He gave me an example of more fucking capitalists he had a drink and played pool with and found common ground with. And to me, that sounds like a nice idealistic idea, but in practice never ever goes well. Now, if he were an ENFP or an ENTJ, we would have just continued debating this point. He did not continue debating the point. One of the attendees was a local business owner who made some kind of big donation, and he and his wife got invited. He was fucked up. We heard him call himself a redneck a few times, and then he came over to us and started talking and referred to himself as a redneck a few more times. So ESFP asks him the trust question we had been discussing. And at this point, I am out of the conversation a bit because I am extremely uncomfortable. Then ESFP hits him with the "Are you a capitalist?" question. And when the attendee says, "Fuck yes, I'm a capitalist, I'm a damned redneck," ESFP says, "No, you aren't a redneck. He explains this story about how rednecks, or redneck as a term, came from bandanas, red bandanas, that identified Union railroad members. So if you aren't part of a union, you aren't a fucking redneck. You better join or support a union. And he did it in that smiling but confrontational shark eyes way I have seen ENTJs confront people. But he's doing it over stupid shit with a guy who looks like he might be carrying, who's drunk, over something that is not worth escalating this situation into violence over. And it feels for, I'd say, 2 minutes there, like things were on the verge of becoming violent. But to my complete and total, utter, how is this even happening shock, attendee admits he's never heard that story as the origin of redneck, but he'll look it up when he gets home, and he appreciates the conversation, and then he leaves. Shook ESFP's and my hands before he leaves. Now, I ask ESFP, why did you do that? ESFP says he saw an opportunity to argue his point with action, and it worked. Why did you go this hard on this subject with this sort of person? Because I believe in what I'm saying. I support unions. How did you know he was not going to fight you over this? I didn't know he was going to fight me over this, but I was willing to fight over it because this is something worth fighting over. And this encounter, or this leg of the encounter, is why I contend ESFPs are one of the only types who can beat ENTJs at their own game. ENTJs will fight hard in situations, but they will not dance this close to the fire in a right state of mind. Don't get me wrong, an ENTJ will pull a pin on a grenade to blow you up, but they'll blow themselves up in the process. ESFPs wield a degree of intensity better and more regularly than ENTJs do. They will take bigger risks than ENTJs, and much of the time those risks will not pay off, but they can. And when they do, ENTJs lose, especially when ESFPs get older and they know what they're doing. Now, this is the moment I ask, hey, do you know what MBTI is? Do you know your MBTI type? Normally, I wouldn't ask, because types I'm interested in, I get good enough at recognizing them, I don't need to ask. Here, I am almost certain this dude is a high-end ESFP, and I want to know. Yes, he is an ESFP, tested, but he doesn't like that shit and thinks it's limiting. Now, the reason I'm making a video about this encounter, aside from the fact it was, or is, one of the most fun encounters I've had since I've been here, one of the only really fun ones, and the fact I haven't made a typology video in a long time, is this encounter is telling about ESFPs and helps us, or can help us, understand them better. Number one, ESFPs can be brilliantly abstract. They might be one of the best sources of practical FI. Good FI used. And rationalized or reasoned through experience. 2. ESFPs are spontaneous. It's one thing to read that in a type description, it's another thing to see it and feel it in action. And when I say spontaneity, I don't just mean wacky woohoo, do whatever. It is more doing a specific sort of thing regardless of what might happen because it's something they want to do or need to do. Outcome independence. 3. This didn't come up in my examples, but the whole TE dresses for the occasion thing still holds true here. 4. Not just for ESFPs, but familiarize yourself with functions, their placements, and quadras or quadrants. If you're having trouble typing someone, you might be able to sniff out types they are close to and then zero in using functions. And when I say types they're close to, that might not mean one letter off. That's why quadras or quadrants are important. This dude had serious ENTJ vibes for a few minutes. Other stuff, other points I detailed earlier in the video. And to wrap up the narrative of this ESFP, I gave him one of my pipes, cheaper pipe, and some tobacco. Actually, it wasn't that cheap, but I don't meet people like that often, so it was nice. I like sharing with people I feel kinship with. He gave me some of his tobacco and rolling papers, and I couldn't figure them out. We never had time to have another conversation that good. He moved away. But the last time we encountered each other, we shook hands, and he said that was still the best conversation he's had since or for the duration of his being here. And I felt similarly. The only other real conversations I've had that were anywhere near that level were with the ENTJ I discussed a long time ago. And that conversation ESFP and I had, there were many other parts of it I'll probably reference or discuss in the future, but that was like a 4 or 5 hour conversation that just started accidentally. And now he's gone. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. I would like to make more videos on ESFPs, but finding ones I click with, especially in person, is very difficult. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. What are your thoughts on ESFPs? As I've mentioned, they are one of my favorite types to observe, but I have a hard time researching them the way I research normal types. What do you think about them? Thanks again for watching, everybody. Really a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun. In fact, you can clip the fun with a paper clip and keep it all in one spot. And that's all I'm showing you on this channel. And I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.